So this is one of the most terrifying sleep paralysis stories that I have ever heard. There was a time where I used to suffer from major sleep paralysis episodes. I would wake up in a state where I couldn't move my body, but I was aware that I was conscious. And at this state, I would get some pretty gnarly hallucinations. These episodes started to occur so frequently that I can't even really remember what part of it was reality versus the hallucination. At the beginning, it wasn't super bad. I would just wake up and feel a little bit stuck in my body. I could see, feel, hear everything that was around me. I just couldn't move until my body was released. But slowly, the state started to take a more complicated condition. For example, I woke up one night and saw myself standing at the edge of my bed, like a twin version of myself just staring at me, watching me sleep. I cannot tell you how terrified I was before breaking free, and I immediately went to Dr. Bergman the next day. He basically didn't really give me that much hope. He told me that this would pass, and there wasn't really any treatment for sleep paralysis, other than just improving some of my sleep habits, like going to bed at the same time each night, avoiding caffeine, not having distractions, and sleeping in a similar sleep environment. And this actually helped for quite a while, up until it didn't. One night I accidentally ended up falling asleep on the couch, and there's not a whole lot of furniture in my apartment because I recently moved in. Apart from the couch, there's a TV set, a lamp, and a rocking chair. This chair was already here before I moved in, and I just figured I would let it stay and that it was probably from the previous tenant. And this time when I woke up feeling stuck again, I didn't see myself. I looked over at the rocking chair and there was a lady maybe in her late 70s rocking back and forth and back and forth. She didn't say anything or even look at me. She just continued to rock back and forth, and eventually I snapped out of it and she was gone. One of the most terrifying things about sleep paralysis is that you know you're awake, but you're also seeing someone who isn't there. This started to happen every single night, but I was confident it was all in my imagination. I let my psychiatrist know, but it was really still no help. He just gave me some meditation tips to use before bed, and that helped for a while until I had one of my friends over for a sleepover. We'll call her Lucy for the sake of the story. But we drank some wine together, watched some Bachelorette, and she ended up drinking a little bit too much and just went ahead and crashed in my room that night. Well, at about 3 a.m., I heard some heavy breathing at a very close distance, and I opened my eyes to see the old lady's head right above mine. And not to freak out, I was just trying to tell myself it's not real, it's not real. And as I was thinking that in my head, she responded to me saying, "You don't think I'm real, do you?" And I knew this was the exact same woman that sat in that rocking chair. She laughed one of the most creepiest laughs I've ever heard, and she approached my friend Lucy. She looked at me and smiled before opening her mouth so wide that she started to engulf Lucy. It was scary. It was almost like a python trying to eat its prey. I don't even want to go into details about how horrific the scene was. I was just trying to scream and get away and break free. But my body couldn't do anything but just lie there like a living corpse. But then suddenly my alarm came on, saving me, and I sprung out of bed screaming at the same time, waking up Lucy. She looked at me and screamed, "What the heck?" And there was absolutely no sign of the old lady. I started to explain what I saw, but before I could even get one sentence out, I passed out and Lucy immediately took me to the hospital. The doctor just told me that I had a panic attack in my sleep since we were drinking wine that night, which, what? But my psychiatrist immediately put me in intensive care for the week. I have never been able to tell Lucy what I saw that night, and I don't even live in that apartment anymore, but before leaving, I asked the landlord what the history was of the place, and the landlord ended up telling me that the place was a psychiatric facility years ago, and that rocking chair is actually from it. And one of their most dangerous patients was a 65-year-old woman who hated kids, and she was brought to the unit after trying to devour a newborn at a local hospital. Many people had claimed that they thought that she was possessed. She used to sit in a rocking chair and rock back and forth all day at the ward. I reached out to some old tenants, but nobody had ever experienced any of the things I had experienced there. I started to think that I just imagined this stuff completely, but one of the most terrifying things is that I met up with Lucy last night at a nightclub. She was there to party with her work friends, and I noticed a bruise on her forehead, and it was almost in a perfect ring. I asked her what had happened to her head, and she paused, looked at me for a second, and said, "I must have fallen off my rocking chair." I hate being here alone when I do these stories, so I am leaving my house.